Yeah, it's nice, right? Yeah. Hey, Coach Renee here, Coach Tom, and today we're going to be watching a video called Doctor Reacts to Parkour Fails. And this is on the YouTube channel Dr. Chris Rayner, which we're going to take a look at here. And he does a lot of videos on injuries and tries to dissect basically what's happening in the clip of the injury and perhaps what the specifics of the injury are. So what did they break? I believe he is an orthopedic surgeon, so his knowledge is a little bit limited to that. And you can probably guess where this is going. This is a video I've actually watched before. Tom has not watched it.
I have not seen it yet.
So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna watch this video, and as he is reacting to these fails and trying to make sense of them, we are also gonna provide our own reaction here. So let's go.
Hey everybody, Dr. Chris, orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine physician, and today I am reviewing parkour and free running fails. Let's get right to it. Parkour free running are the same thing. It is a form of training where you...
Are they the same thing?
I don't know, is it? It's basically the same thing at this point.
Yeah. I feel like he's done a little bit of homework though.
Clearly, well, he said almost the same thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. He is aware of the
you
culture.
run over or through obstacles using only your body. David Bell is viewed by many as the father of parkour, which is kind of odd because David was actually trained by his father, Raymond Bell, who was a highly skilled rescuer in the French military fire rescue service.
He knows more about parkour history than a lot of
potentially than more people that are subscribed to this channel.
Yeah, exactly. This is pretty, yeah. Okay.
A little bit of homework was done, a little bit.
Yeah.
While you may not know the name David Bell, you may have seen one of his many appearances in movies such as District 13, Babylon AD, and Prince of Persia. And while parkour is a discipline that is practiced by seasoned gymnasts and professional free runners, it is also something that is practiced by novices and beginners alike. Anything that includes obstacles, heights, tricks that are performed at speed is a recipe for disaster. And we're gonna check that out right now. All right, so let's watch this first video clip. So here we have an athlete who is jumping from a height onto another object.
So you know this one already.
No.
So we have Mr. Drew Taylor. I love how he says jumping from a height.
Yes,
And
yes.
he's clearly performing a side flip.
A side flip is a jump.
Mm-hmm. So you know what's about to happen.
I know exactly what's about to
I
happen.
don't know if everybody else knows what's going to happen, but...
Object which is lower down. The other object basically has a surface that is at a slant. He is landing on a surface that is at an angle. And unfortunately, he starts to rotate around the fixed foot, his left foot, which is on that object. And I've said this a million times, bones are great in compression, but they suck, absolutely suck in rotation. And we can see the result of that right here.
It's like, bones suck at rotation. Like, I don't know, I don't know what he means by that even. Like, rotating, are we talking like your tibia and your fib can't rotate this way, or you can't do a flip and land?
Maybe he's just saying that like the bone isn't a joint. Drew turned it into one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
He's okay now though.
Yeah, I know, but that one's always hard to watch.
I think we're gonna have to watch it a couple more times.
Wonderful.
He basically suffers an ankle fracture dislocation. And we can see that as soon as he lays on the ground, that his foot is at an awkward angle. My official orthopedic diagnosis in this case is that his ankle is all kinds of jacked up.
All official.
Jacked up. We can see that he gets taken to the hospital where they perform a closed reduction, and then he is mobilized in a cast. We don't get to see the x-rays, so we don't really know exactly the extent of his injuries, but I would venture to guess from this that he had suffered a fracture dislocation of the ankle involving at least the fibula, if not also the medial malleolus or the inside aspect of the ankle. Normally this is a problem that...
So I think this is what we're gonna see a lot of in this video, but I think this is also a lot of what this guy does is which is never recommended is like watch video footage and then determine like what's happening without.
He's diagnosing without really knowing.
Yeah, like you don't have. He's not looking at the X-rays, and not like he even as a doctor, you should know this is not how you do things. So it's a little sus.
It's a bit sus. It's kind of interesting though. Like he's like based on what he sees, he's like, well, this is what I think is probably happening. I mean, he said like we don't get to see the X-rays, so I don't know for sure. But I don't know. I'm kind of fascinated.
That would require surgery for fixation. However, if the fracture fragments were minimally displaced and the closed reduction was able to restore those fracture fragments to their anatomic alignment, this is a problem that could be treated with non-operative management only. On the other hand, if the reduction was not adequate and there were more than 2 millimeters of displacement at the articular surface, or there was widening of the ankle mortise, which is the joint which is caused by the ends of the tibia and the fibula and the talus, then he would require open reduction and internal fixation with plates and screws. Either way, something tells me that he's not going to be doing parkour for at least a 6 to 8 week time period, if not more. If you know what any of these maneuvers are called, then please.
Do you know if Drew had surgery?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I want to say he did, but he was talking about it there that it didn't
look like it might not have needed it. It depends, I guess. It depends on what he just said.
Please let me know down in the comments. But at any rate, we have a young man who is basically trying to vault a extended distance over a staircase. And when you're running at speed, you really need to stick that landing. Otherwise, you will slip off and something bad is likely to happen. So in this particular...
I feel like that one's not that bad.
That might be a broken tailbone.
Particular case, we see that he makes the distance adequate. However, when we look at the slow-mo, we can see that his feet just come a little bit short. And because...
So I just gotta say that they don't come short; they go too far.
Yeah,
he
overreached it.
Yeah, his toes are up, heel is on the edge.
And it's classic slip bail.
Yeah, did some skiing.
He did some skiing. Yeah, yeah. He probably would have undershot that jump anyway.
You think so?
I think it probably would have been a bounce back if he had his feet in the right position. Instead, he slipped forward.
Yeah, so it's like when you're close, bounce back, bounce out, you just intuitively try to lift your feet up higher because you're like, oh, I'll make it if my feet go up.
It's like overcommitted, you know? Like he's reaching too high.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Because of that, he is not able to stick the landing on the far wall. And unfortunately, the next thing that hits the wall is his coccyx, or tailbone. And because he was running at speed, he hits his tailbone quite hard on the corner of the wall.
I broke my tailbone.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably like 13 years ago now. So I know the feels.
He immediately falls to the ground and starts grabbing for his tailbone. I can't say for sure what type of injury was sustained. Based on the mechanism of injury, there are a few things that we might anticipate. So number one, as I previously mentioned, it is likely or can be expected that he may have injured his coccyx. He may have just suffered a contusion or a bruise to the coccyx if it wasn't broken. And although the coccyx is typically injured by falling directly onto one's buttocks onto the ground or a hard surface, smashing your butt against the corner of a concrete wall is probably equally effective. Another injury that he may have sustained is an injury to his low back. And we can see here that as he is moving forward with the momentum of his jump, we can see that there is a little bit of a shudder as the force of impact is transmitted from his buttocks up through his spine all the way up to his head. And by this mechanism, he may cause...
Do you actually know who that is in the video?
I have no idea.
I have no idea there, but I'm just watching this, I'm like, what if he was just fine?
Yeah, he may have he may have just gotten up, walked away.
Because I've seen
hurt a little bit, but
seen that type of bail, and it's always tricky to know whether or not.
It is a really big jump, though.
Yeah.
So like this, I think the scale of it may have resulted in more serious damage. But yeah, I mean, he might have been able to walk away. I walked away from when I broke my tailbone. It hurt a lot, but I was able to very gently creep away from the situation.
Cause injury to either the vertebral bodies or the vertebral discs of the lumbar spine. Either way, it's going to be a long time before he is sitting down normally, or probably walking normally. And hopefully his pain symptoms are not bad enough that he requires a narcotic analgesic for pain relief, because constipation would be a really bad thing for him to have. So in this particular case, we have a young man jumping from a height down to the ground below. And he's performing a front flip as he does so. And unfortunately, a front flip is an acrobatic maneuver where you are unable to spot the landing because...
True or not true?
I mean, if you're unskilled, you're definitely not going to be able to spot the landing.
It's like this guy's out there hitting front prees.
Yeah.
Different tech than the
There is, I mean, obviously with any kind of flip pre, you're going to be blind to your landing for at least a bit.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a pretty gnarly one because I don't know who this is either.
Yeah.
This is kind of the thing with some of these videos like this is we're looking at, parkour and free running fails. And actually, we didn't talk about the thumbnail. We'll pull it up later. But the thumbnail is of a store video where none of these types of fails happened.
Oh, really?
And it's just like that. But it looks like something bad's about to happen. But yeah, parkour always easy prey for you. It's not hard to find people not knowing what they're doing.
That's super true.
And hurting themselves trying to do some big parkour like this one.
Your feet come around first and then your head follows afterwards. By the time you can see the ground, your fate is already sealed because you are going to land on whatever is there if there happens to be something in the way because you are not able to maneuver yourself out of the way in time. And we can see here that this young man did not check out his landing spot beforehand, and unfortunately his friends were not the spotters that they should have been to tell him that there was an object in the way, or
classic parkour mistake here.
Just not checking the surfaces.
Didn't check the surfaces.
I'm assuming that, I'd like to know who it is, I'm assuming that he was trying to clear the tree.
Oh,
and just didn't have enough speed.
I wonder, but I mean, we don't know the context of the situation, but I mean, it looks like he could have prepped it to the side and checked to see if his distance was on point. But who knows? Maybe there was a mistake on the approach and he was still committed. But check your surfaces, ladies and gentlemen. It is a critical rule.
Maybe he just thought that he had enough speed that he was going to jump over it. But at any rate, he lands with his crotch directly onto the roots of the exposed stump. This has the potential to be a very serious injury for a number of reasons. So if we first consider the orthopedic injuries, because I'm an orthopedic guy, so let's just talk about that for a second. We have a lot of force coming down on the bones that are in that area. And basically you have the sits bones of the pelvis, and it is these bones that are most susceptible to injury. So depending on where he actually contacted the roots with his pelvis, he could have easily suffered an injury to any part of the pelvis. The inferior pubic rami, which are the bottom rings of the pelvis, the sacral ala, which is the part of the pelvis where the spine joins, or if he landed with enough force, the acetabuli themselves, which are basically the cups of the hip joint where the femoral heads reside. But this is only the orthopedic nature of his injuries. As he landed from a height onto the spines of the roots of this exposed stump, it is quite possible that he has suffered a number of puncture wounds or lacerations into the area of his groin. And this could cause injury to any of the structures there, including his scrotum, his testicles, his penis, or any of the neurovascular structures of the groin.
I feel like so much of this channel is just like, what are the number of things I can name that could have happened to this guy who, yeah, obviously he landed on some gnarly tree stuff, and there's like, I think the video just cuts there, so who knows like what he actually went through.
I think his goal is just to get his viewers to cringe.
Yeah,
I'm cringing so much
or like
during this.
be impressed by like the amount of words he's thrown out there. Actually, is there a way? Yeah, we can watch this faster, right? Do you know how to change that?
Groin, including the pudendal nerve, and that would suck. Because look it up. It would suck to never feel himself down there again. That would be bad and unfortunate for him. The moral of the story here: always check out where you're going to land. Make sure that there's nothing there. Now,
he knows. Check your surfaces.
Now, I'm not sure what this maneuver is called. I think this is called a Kong. I think that's what this is called. So basically what this person is trying to do is to vault over one wall and land on the wall behind or following.
You know this one.
I know this one. The funny thing is, it was, well, it's not funny, I guess, but she ended up at a jam in Florida that I was at too. So, and when she showed up, she had 2 black eyes from this situation.
Dang.
So,
What's her name again?
Natalie Strasser.
Natalie Strasser. I mean, like she went on to. This is kind of like probably like more in her noob period. So she went on to do better.
Yeah,
in parkour.
That one. And it appears here that this athlete misjudged the distance or the height of the far wall, because here they land quite short, like really short, and basically hits the corner of the wall with the brow of his head. We don't get to see the aftermath
Her head.
this incident here, but we can see that as the jumper is falling backwards to the ground, they're immediately grabbing to their forehead and grabbing this region right here, which is the eyebrow at the nasal bridge. Now, based on the force of impact here and the area at which the contact occurred, it is quite possible that this person suffered a fracture of their skull at the location of the nasal bridge. And if that did occur, then this is an injury that would require open reduction and internal fixation with plates and screws to address the injury pattern that was observed. As I said in the intro,
I don't know how he got it, like, how he thought it was a dude.
Yeah.
In that clip. But.
I mean, she's wearing baggy clothes, but I don't think she broke her skull. I think what actually happened was just her nose. She just smashed her nose.
Wasn't that
It was
bad.
definitely a broken nose.
Yeah,
but.
well, you can see like also her feet kind of hit the ground at the same time, so it's not like flying through the air and landing head first.
Yeah.
Like as if, imagine if she was doing like a double Kong and that was the bail, then we would definitely have that.
But it's interesting that she missed her hands so badly, right?
Yeah.
Like typically, I mean, she even had her hands up, but just completely missed the corner of the wall, which would have been exactly what would protect her face from impact. But oof.
Introduction. Parkour is a discipline that involves running over obstacles, and sometimes those obstacles are at height. So on some occasions, athletes will have falls from heights, and in this instance, that's exactly what happened. So we see here that we have an athlete who's basically trying to jump from column to column, and there's probably about, I would guess, 10 to 12 feet in between columns, and the columns are of a height of approximately 20 feet. So this is enough distance that were you to fall from this distance onto the pavement and land on your feet, if you were not well trained and did not land in a manner which absorbed the shock, you could quite easily severely injure your feet and or ankles and or legs and or freaking pelvis. So we have a guy here who's attempting to jump from column to column, and I guess that he is not able to stick the landing. He has too much forward momentum. Pedestal's only...
I don't know who that is, but I don't think he was I think he was trying to do a plyo.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
Probably about...
I think it's interesting that he's saying that if you're not trained well, then you're likely to suffer these injuries. But he's also making the assumption that, like, if you're trained well, you can drop from 20 feet and you'd be fine. But I mean, he probably watches Dom videos and Wonder if he's seen Capstone.
2 foot square at the top, so not very far for him to try to stop himself. And unfortunately, he proceeds off the edge of the platform with all of his forward momentum, meaning that he is now going to drop from a height of 20 feet onto the ground. As this descent was not planned, he's not really prepared to try to absorb the shock, and he is all stretched out with his arms akimbo, just basically trying to do whatever he can to right himself in space. When we look at the slow-mo, we can see that as he lands, he falls backwards, and basically when we look at the shape of his legs, it does not appear as if he has suffered a fracture to either of his legs at either the level of the femur or the tibius, so that's a good thing. However,
how can you tell with those sweatpants though?
the foot is a complex structure which is made up of 26 bones. That's correct, you heard what I said, 26 bones, which basically means that there are 52 opportunities for something to break when his feet hit the ground. We don't get to see the x-rays, we don't get to see what happens after this, but I think that it's fair to say that he has probably broken at least 1 or more bones in his feet by this fall. And the bone that is most likely to have been injured is the calcaneus, or in other words, the heel bone. Typically, the calcaneus, which articulates with the talus, or the main bone of the ankle, is usually crushed between the talus and the ground in an impact such as this. The calcaneus, which has a shape somewhat like that of a house, will typically have the roof caved in by the talus, the main bone of the ankle, when you have an impact from a height like this. If the shape of the roof, otherwise known as the angle of Bowler, is not corrected by operative fixation, then the patient will tend to have problems with ankle eversion and inversion after the fracture has healed. Eventually, this joint will go on to suffer from post-traumatic subtalar arthritis. The person will have problem walking over uneven surfaces. So, if this athlete has indeed suffered calcaneus fracture and it is displaced or the angle of Bowler has been compromised, then he is going to require operative fixation and he is going to be out of commission for some time. Because unfortunately for him, calcaneus fractures typically take on the order of 3 to 4 months to heal. And
noted. Don't break your heel.
But again, I'm like watching. I'm like, what if he was fine?
Yeah,
he may have.
Yeah,
he may have been fine.
I mean, it didn't look like he took an insane amount of impact on his feet. It looked like more than anything, he just kind of like quickly touched his feet and then went to his hips, which also wouldn't feel very, or his butt. Like it also wouldn't feel very good. But I don't know. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what happened. He might have just had a bruised foot. He also may have suffered a fracture to the calcaneus.
Also, unfortunately for this young man, calcaneus fractures are associated with a high rate of complications and a poor post-injury prognosis. So although there's not a lot of research about this particular sport, we can see that parkour is a discipline that carries with it an inherent risk and a significant chance for injury. So if you're a parkour or free running athlete and you've had an injury, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section down below. If you like the video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. And as always, that's in a word, Dr. Chris, not your everyday ortho. Just a flesh wound.
All right.
I can do that too, Dr. Chris. So the thing with like these types of videos, and actually I want to go into the comments here and also look at the reason I brought it up too is, so this video has 26,000 views, not viral by any means, but still a good chunk of views, and compared to actually a lot of his other videos, it is up there on popularity. So again, it's not hard to find videos of people not knowing what they're doing and messing up. Even people knowing what they're doing in parkour and sometimes messing up. It's like the harder stuff you try, the more risk I've talked about this before.
Yeah, parkour is dangerous, but we try to minimize the danger when we can.
So if we go through some of the comments here, my official diagnosis, all kinds of jacked up. I thought that was kind of funny. Some maneuvers. I'm a forensics major, so I find injury analysis supremely interesting. Oh yeah, that object definitely stuck the landing, not the person. All kinds of jacked up. That would be bad. That would be unfortunate for him. I love these videos. I can't stop watching them. Thanks for making them, Doc. Do you love these kinds of videos?
I wouldn't say I particularly enjoyed it.
Coach Jackson really likes bail videos.
I'm not big on watching bails. I'll watch them, and I like to watch them to see what not to do. But actually, like for Drew's injury, I like put off watching that bail for a while.
Really?
Yeah, because just.
I mean, the tib fib, because it's happened to people, is one of those injuries where it seems like every single time you see it happen to someone, it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
We have like Kent Johns, who was just doing like a kind of like a drop stride, probably not even like a massive drop stride snap. That one for it's not a big side flip, it's to a slant, but like you have to know he did it successfully before that.
Yeah.
I think some of the other guys were hitting it too. Most people would actually think that side flipping to a slant is actually softer than side flipping to flat in some ways. So it's a weird one.
With Drew's, it looks like he both over-rotated and undershot it, if that makes sense. So he didn't get both feet on, and he was over-rotated. So his foot kind of stuck to it while he continued going, and only one foot was in contact. So it just looks like that was just like obviously his worst attempt out of all of them, but.
Okay, so here we go. He says, be sure to let me know if you participate in parkour or free running. What's the worst parkour injury that you have seen? He really engages in his comments here. And so 19 comments. Dr. Chris Rayner, I'm all jacked up without parkour. I'm just here for the oohs and ahs and the giggles. Okay, so this is someone who's like...
not a parkour person.
Yeah.
But also has experienced injuries, so...
Says, thanks for watching. Some gnarly injuries, that's for sure. I was jumping over a fence to about a 25 stair, landed on my left foot, rolled to my neck, causing an open tib fib fracture, broken ankle, 4 broken ribs, oh my goodness, broken neck, C3 and 4, plus many lacks to my body that are too numerous to count. I'm a firefighter paramedic now, so I can say for certain it's a stupid thing to do if you don't know what you're doing to patients I come across.
Okay.
He said he was jumping over a fence to about a 25 foot, like what was he... Was he trying to land on the stairs?
I don't know, but it sounds like he didn't know what he was actually doing. So that's usually what happens.
I have enough trouble with flat ground at a slow pace, but I have mad respect for people who challenge and know their body enough to do any sort of free running. Thank you. It was a rainy day. I tried a gap 3 to 4 feet and I sprained my foot. I'm now better and it took only 2 to 3 weeks. I can now do 7-foot gaps normally. A friend of mine did a back full onto a mat from a height, fractured his foot in 2 places. He filmed it. You could hear the crack. Great video, Dr. Rayner. I did a double side flip where I landed with my right foot on top of my left foot. My ankle got pretty swollen up and my toes felt weird. Did an x-ray and luckily no fractures, but I was out for a good 2.5 months before I could train properly again.
Double side flip to foot precision.
A lot of shin injuries for sure, like jumping on rails and feet slips and you hit your shin and taking big drops and bruising your heels and taking a lot of impact while jumping and developing tendonitis in the knees. Last one can be chronic. Should slow down.
Yeah, slow down, buddy.
Anyways, so I think there was a comment here, I can't find it now, of course, where he mentions like definitely a young guy's sport. And yeah, I mean, that's something that I think if you're trying to do a lot of the stuff that you see in these videos, if you're an older person starting out in parkour, it's going to be really hard to achieve them particularly safely. So in that context, yeah, maybe for younger people, unless you're older and then in fact trained, I'm sure you'd agree.
Yeah. Or you come from a history of like other sporting practice and then get into parkour at a later age. I think you can still do some pretty challenging and riskier maneuvers.
Yeah. And of course, I just wish, he starts off the video talking about the history of parkour and stuff, and it's kind of like, oh, he's done something, like, it almost sounds like it points that he's tried a bit of parkour.
Yeah.
He's like, I think this is called a Kong. Like, he knows a little bit there. So it's or maybe he's had some patience, although he doesn't mention any. But it would have been nice if he didn't just shit on parkour for the whole video, which is part of the reason why I thought we should give it a watch and try to go through some of his claims.
I felt like he was fair, right? He assessed everything to the best of his knowledge. He clearly did some research on what parkour was. And then he also gave, like preface some of these things with like, well, if you aren't trained to do this, then it can cause problems. Where, he respected that there's like a skill to the sport, and that the higher your skill, the less likely it is that you'll be injured in these scenarios. So, so kudos to him for actually like, I thought this was going to be way more like cringy, not just watching the actual, injuries happen, but I thought it was going to be cringy in that he was just going to be super unknowledgeable and just hating on parkour the whole time. But I didn't find that was the case. I felt like he was fair. He wasn't ignorant about parkour being, completely just reckless and dangerous, but he also wasn't the other side of it either, where he's, parkour, none of these people knew what they were doing, because if you really practice parkour, then you could be totally 100% safe all the time. And I think that's a lot of parkour people think that. So
I guess the other thing for me too is like when he tries to explain the biomechanics of the situation, which is not his wheelhouse. If you're an orthopedic surgeon, like you're cutting people open, you're looking at, sure, biomechanics, how certain injuries happen, but they also get it wrong all the time. Like totally you could go see dozens of orthopedic surgeons and without imaging, show them like a video clip of you getting hurt and them looking at your symptoms and trying to determine, what actually happened to you. And it's like they're making guesses, they don't actually know. But if you like that video and you like watching bales and stuff like that, Dr. Chris Rayner on YouTube, you can check him out. Of course, if you want to see us break down more videos like this one, you can subscribe to Origins Parkour on YouTube. Drop us a like, origins.pk on Instagram. Can they find us anywhere else? originsparkour.com for lessons. If you're in Vancouver, hit us up. We can teach you how to, potentially not.
How to minimize your risk.
No guarantees.
No guarantees.
All right, that's it for us today. Hope you liked the video. We'll see you next time.